So in the previous video, we had seen something called as typecasting, and I had given you one practice question to solve. So if you have done that program correctly, you would be seeing something like this on your screen. Yes, you're correct, an error. Why? Because this particular thing was already converted to an integer and we can't display an int as a float, right? So that is bound to give some error because an int expects a format specifier as %d, so we can't give %f as the format specifier. So that is what I was expecting as the output. So if you run this, you will get the output again as this. Fine. So let's carry on with today's experiment. Today's experiment is a very simple one, and that should clear all the doubts regarding declaration, regarding variables, regarding the data types. Okay, so this is the next program that we are going to deal with today. So let's have a look. It's a very simple program. As you can see, it's called area. So I have taken the length as an integer. I have put a comma. We can use commas to add multiple declarations. Okay, so int length equal to 10. So I have initialized that length as 10. I have also initialized one more variable, width, with value 5. So in short, length and width is what I have initialized. So now this is basically the area of a rectangle, as you can see. So this line number 4 is going to display the area and the perimeter of this rectangle. So let's display this. This is the expected output. The area is 50 and the perimeter is 30. So we all know that area is length into breadth or length into width, and the perimeter is twice length plus width. So in this case, the length is 10, the width is 5, so it becomes 15 into 2, that is 30. So the output is correct, right? So now let's see how this thing works. Area is %d, perimeter is %d, and that's it. So we are going to display this much. Okay, so this %d is obviously going to be replaced by some operation. This %d is again going to be replaced by some operation. Now in the previous video, if you see, we had already seen that we can perform operations simultaneously and then pass on the result of that operation directly as an output. In one more previous video, we saw that we can directly pass on the variable value and display on the screen. So we are going one step ahead this time. We are doing these operations on the runtime. That is, we are performing length into width. That is, we are performing the multiplication operation, and the result is then thrown on the screen on the console as %d. So length into width is nothing but 10 into 5, that is 50. It is an integer value. So that integer value requires %d. So if I write %f over here and try to run it, let's see, it is going to give me an error, just like the previous question, right? So if it is an integer, it is expected that you are going to use %d or %ld, it depends, right? Similarly, the next value which is going to replace this is the perimeter. So it is again twice length plus width. Now remember a point over here that none of these variables is declared as a float. If one of these variables was declared as a float, then there would arise a need for typecasting that we saw in the previous case. But in this video, both of these variables are declared as integers. So we don't need to do any kind of typecasting over here. We may not lose any precision because the values are integers only. So 10 into 5, 10 into 6, 10 into 8, we will get the exact value as the answer. Now if I want to make certain changes, suppose I declare the width as float, and if I take 5.25, now we know that we need to make some changes. Okay, what are those changes? We need to modify this %d to %f. First thing. Now let's run this. Yeah, as I expected, as you know that this width is now float, but the length is integer. So it is obviously going to give me a incorrect value over here because I am displaying that as int, but the result over here is float, because integer into float is going to give me a float result. So you have to modify this as %f. Then display it. There are no errors. As expected, as you can see, area is 52.5 as expected. Same way as I have already converted this perimeter also into %f, so it is giving me the answer correctly, 30.500. So to sum up, if any of these parameters over here is a float, then implicit typecasting happens over here because I am nowhere converting that into an int and displaying it. But as you saw in the previous case, we need to perform some explicit typecasting only where we want to convert the entire result into an int and display the result as an int. So let's try that once again over here. If I want to display this as an integer, what can I do? Wherever there is a float, it is going to give me some incorrect result because I want the answer to be in integer, right? So what happens is, this is my float value. I would put an int in front of it so that explicitly this value gets converted to an int and then the operation is performed. Now let's run this. As you can see, this time there are no errors. And if I display this, yes, we got the answer. So this is what we call as explicit typecasting. Wherever there is a float which we want to convert into an int, typecast it over there. So the final result is always going to be an integer. So as you can see, it is length plus, the length was 10 plus 5.25 was the width. It is now getting converted to an integer. So again, it is going to give me the answer as 5. So it is 10 plus 5, 15 into 2, that is again 30. Getting it? So this is how we can do. Or if you want to show me one more way, it could be like this. Put an int in front of this bracket and let's see what is the output. It is again going to give me the same result. So there are various ways of doing this. So the very first way was put the int in front of that single variable which is going to cause that problem, or put it in front of the entire operation. Both of the ways work. So I hope you got the understanding of how this typecasting thing can be carried forward and how both can be used implicitly and explicitly with operations at runtime. Right? So I hope you enjoyed this video. In the next video, we are going to learn some more aspects of C programming. So stay tuned, stay connected, keep learning, keep programming. God bless you all.